Ladies and gentlemen, Bel Air, episode 6, The Strength to Smile. If you want to see episode 5, I'll leave that up top. You can check that out as well on this channel. Also, feel free to leave a like on this video if you want to see more TV episode breakdowns. Also, leave a follow. So here's the deal, man. I wanted to see if I could watch one of these Bel Air episodes without getting thoroughly upset at something as an OG Fresh Prince fan. Would this be the episode? It wouldn't be. We're about to hop right on into this thing. Bel Air, episode 6. So I checked out this show, Bel Air, and I'm like, I've been getting upset with Bel Air time in and time out. There are some good things about the show, but nevertheless, there are some things that make me upset about it as well. But we started. Will was getting roasted on social media, and this is a problem that I have in general with reboots of shows. They feel like they have to cram everything that's going on into today's world to fit on the reboot. And like, there's no need for Instagram to be on the show, and Will's getting roasted on social media or whatnot, and it just feels extra. Not that I had a huge problem with it, but it just felt a little bit extra. Nevertheless, we had the OG Aunt Viv come in, and this is one thing that I did like. OG Aunt Viv and Will on Fresh Prince always had that great relationship back and forth, and they have that great relationship on Bel Air, so I appreciate that. Nevertheless, Will talks to Uncle Phil, and this is one thing that ticks me off about Bel Air. Like, Will is just cussing in front of Uncle Phil. Like, on what standpoint would Uncle Phil not snatch Will up on Fresh Prince if that happened? Like, it just doesn't vibe with me. Nevertheless, they hash it out and they talk, and yeah, Uncle Phil and Will, they have a great relationship. It's less rocky than it was if you're an OG Fresh Prince fan. That relationship is, but nevertheless, it's really good. Moving on, the Prank Brothers are messing with Hilary while she's trying to cook. Aunt Viv needs Hilary's help. Nevertheless, and I don't know about this influencer house. It doesn't look like something that's gonna work out for a long time. If you look at Kylo and the things that's going on with him, looks like we're heading for something there. Nevertheless, we move on. We're in the kitchen, and that's when we find out about Angela and Fred Wilkes. And Will is like, man, who is Angela? And we come to find out that Lisa's mom, when she passed away, her dad got engaged a month later. And you can tell that we were heading towards something with OG Aunt Viv and Angela. So, yeah, that was the storyline. And it was like, okay, we'll see where this goes from here. Nevertheless, like I said with Kylo and Hilary, he wanted something posted within 24 hours. And like I said, you can tell that's going downhill. In my opinion, if I'm making a guess right here, right now, I'm saying Hilary won't be in the influencer house for too much longer before something goes down. Nevertheless, we get to Lisa, and she's talking about Fred Wilkes and how she does not like Angela, and she's just not feeling Angela at all. And it's understandable. They're having a baby, and Lisa's talking about how they're gonna move out once they have the baby, and she does not like it at all. Nevertheless, something very interesting happened that I was like, I didn't see that coming. We get Hilary in the kitchen, we get Ashley in the kitchen, and they're talking about how Mom and Aunt Vi stopped talking. And there was something going on with Aunt Viv and Aunt Viv, and like, what's going on there? What happened? And right when they get into the conversation, Uncle Phil shuts it down. So Uncle Phil knows something, we don't know it. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I hope it's not something that ticks me off as an OG Fresh Prince fan. Nevertheless, we'll see how that turns out going forward. We get down as we move on to Romero Lucia, and it comes out that Lucia likes Will. And this whole thing with Ashley, man, like, if you saw my review in episode 5, I don't like how they're changing characters just for the sake of changing characters. not just Ashley, feels like everybody, or nearly everybody's just getting changed for the sake of change. And this whole thing with Ashley, I'm like, really? Do we need to just change Ashley for the sake of change? I didn't like it from the start. Nevertheless, it comes out that Lucille likes Will, and that's not going to happen for Ashley. We move on, and we get to Angela. And she's trying to talk to Vivian, and she's talking about how she cannot connect with Lisa. Rightfully so. I mean, you're just trying to barge your way into it. And boy, it comes out. Angela let it slip that, you know what? I got with Fred before Gail died. And like, she was like, wait, no, I kind of meant that we knew each other before. And the lie is just breaking down in front of her face right then and there. And Will is like, did she just? And Viv said, yep. And Viv was out of there, man. She didn't had enough. Speaking of Viv, there was Reid. And you know what? Reid wants Vivian to enter her painting. He finds a painting. Reid just bars his way into the house. He was just like, let me just go up in this room and see what's happening. And he barges in there. He finds Aunt Viv's painting. He wants her to enter it into the silent auction. And you know what? Uncle Phil comes in, and you know, Uncle Phil is just sniffing this out. He's like, who this dude is right here? And Aunt Viv ends up putting her painting into the silent auction. Reid puts in a bid. Then Uncle Phil comes behind him and puts in a $20,000 bid. And this whole thing is clearly going somewhere that Uncle Phil does not like. Later in the show, Uncle Phil is like, look, Jeffrey, you keep an eye out on this dude, because there's something more here with him. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Moving on, Lisa and Will kind of bounce together over their missing parents. Lisa tells Will that she is just tired of Carlton and being there for his problems. And they bounded together over that. But however, Carlton overhears them. He's sitting on the stairwell, and then like he goes barging into the room. And Carlton, this is a whole nother issue that I have with Carlton as an OG Fresh Prince fan. That like, if you go back and watch episode 5, like go back and look at the breakdown of the had for episode 5. Like, no, not this Carlton. Moving on, we had Mardi Gras themes. And you know what? Mardi Gras just happened here in Louisiana. It was on Tuesday, so great timing to have this show come out. A couple of days later, we have Mardi Gras. If you're going to have a Mardi Gras theme, you got to have jazz, you got to have food, and you got to have purple and gold. And they had it all. So I hats off to them. Great job with that. Moving on, we got to Carlton. We got to Will. Lisa was ready to make the speech, and Carlton was not there. Nevertheless, Will goes looking for Carlton. He breaks down, and once Will comes in, Carlton is doing coke again, and it's like this is the retelling of Fresh Prince in 2022 that Carlton is doing this. Like, oh my God, man! Like I said, changing characters for the sake of change. For what? Why is Carlton doing this? Why is he like that? There's just no reason at all. Nevertheless, Will takes Carlton's place. He does a poem with Lisa. It goes greatly, and everything's going greatly until Angela jumps in. She says that she wants to make a speech, and Aunt Viv isn't having it. Like, one thing I will give Fresh Prince or Bel Air, they've done an outstanding job of casting Aunt Viv. Because one thing you don't do is you don't mess with Aunt Viv's kids. And clearly, Lisa is not Aunt Viv's kid, but she's just kind of stepped into the motherly figure once her mom died. And Aunt Viv is going off, and she's giving it to Angela, and Lisa's just there. She's just enjoying every bit of it. A good scene. Nevertheless, directly after that, it is revealed that Fred is going to enter the race against Uncle Phil. And we got something there. Know what I'm saying? Jeffrey's there, and he's like, you know what? It is what it is. And we'll see how this storyline plays out. Former friends, Uncle Phil backstabbed. And you know what? I am very interested. Speaking of very interesting, or very interested, Viv, her painting gets over 20K. She made the bet with Reid that, you know what, if it's sold for 20K, I would come up and put my painting in your auction, in your building, and we'll see how it turns out. Nevertheless, it goes for 20K. She pays up with the bet with Reid, and yeah, man, Reid ain't just trying to get the paintings. He's trying to get to Aunt Viv. That's what it is. And we'll see how that plays out, like I said earlier, going forward. We get down to Uncle Phil in Carlton. And I'm sitting there like, finally. Uncle Phil is going to bust Carlton. Carlton wakes up and Uncle Phil's sitting on the bed. And I'm like, not only is he going to bust Carlton, he's going to bust him upside the head because that's Uncle Phil. That's what Uncle Phil would be on Fresh Prince. That's what he would be in 2022. All of a sudden, Uncle Phil says, I know what you've been going through, and it's anxiety. Anxiety? Come on, man. Like, if this was Uncle Phil Fresh Prince, he would have just busted Carlton a long time ago and would have just grounded him into dirt. Like, this is what we're doing with Uncle Phil, this soft Uncle Phil. Like, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like, Uncle Phil was as much about respect and fear as much as he was about love. Like, you was going to obey him, and you know what? He was going to bust Carlton. Like, anxiety, that's what we're doing. That is what we're doing. So, we'll see, man. They're eventually going to bust Carlton, hopefully at some point. But nevertheless, we move on to the final scene. Lisa kisses Will, and finally it's going to be Lisa. It's going to be Will. We'll see how it plays out. That was a great scene. But nevertheless, that was the end of the episode 6. And we're moving on to episode 7. Eventually next week, we'll see how that turns out. Like I said, man, they should have named this something else other than Bel Air. Like they said, it was a reboot of Fresh Prince or a retelling of Fresh Prince in 2022. And now it puts certain expectations that we have on Fresh Prince, or that we had on Fresh Prince back in the past, that we'll put on Bel Air. So, like, if it was its own show, that'd be one thing, but they said it was a reboot, a retelling, but it has so much expectation on it now to where OG Fresh Prince fans will look at it and be like, oh man, I don't like this. Oh man, I don't like that. That's where I'm at on this show. Nevertheless, let me know what you think, whether that be on Twitter at Corey B Elite or in the YouTube comments. Let me know what you thought about episode 6, Bel Air.